a charity case, scrubbing the floors of a mansion she secretly owned that was the life Clara Montgomery endured for 3 years. Her husband, David, whispered lies about a shared future while his mother, Beatrice, treated her like a servant. The Sterling family saw a penniless orphan they could trample, never suspecting this nobody was the sole heir to Blackwood Global, the very empire holding their fortune hostage. A single phone call is about to turn their world into ashes and reveal a power they can't imagine. This is a story of ultimate revenge. The gravel crunching under the tires of Liam's sedan sounded like bones breaking, or maybe that was just Harper's nerves. As the car wound up the long, manicured driveway of the Sterling estate in Greenwich, Connecticut, Harper tightened her grip on her seatbelt until her knuckles turned white. "Babe, relax," Liam said, glancing at her with that easy, oblivious smile of his. He adjusted his silk tie in the rearview mirror. "It's just my parents' anniversary. They're stressed. If Mum says something sharp, just let it slide, okay for me." Harper looked down at her dress. It was a simple navy A-line she'd found on sale at Macy's. It was clean, modest, and fit her perfectly, but she knew what Catherine Sterling would see polyester blend last season bargain bin. "I always let it slide," Liam Harper said quietly. "But last time, your sister asked me if I was there to refill the hors d'oeuvres. It's getting harder to smile through it." Liam sighed, the smile fading into annoyance. "Tiffany is just high-spirited. Don't be so sensitive. Tonight is huge for Dad. He's closing the merger with the Omni Group. If this goes well, the family stock triples. Just try to blend in." Blend in? That was Liam's code for be invisible. The car stopped in front of the portico. Valets in white jackets rushed forward. Harper stepped out the cool autumn air, biting at her exposed arms. She reached into the back seat for her gift, a vintage first edition poetry book she'd spent 3 months' savings on. Isaac Sterling loved poetry, or at least he claimed to in his interviews. Before she could even straighten up, a sharp voice cut through the air. "Liam, darling." Finally. Catherine Sterling stood at the top of the stone steps, draped in a shimmering silver gown that likely cost more than Harper's student loans. She descended the stairs with open arms, bypassing Harper entirely to embrace her son. "Mother, you look stunning," Liam said, kissing her cheek. Catherine pulled back her eyes, finally flickering to Harper. The warmth instantly evaporated, replaced by a look of pained tolerance, as if she were smelling spoiled milk. "Harper," Catherine said. She didn't offer a hand. Her gaze raked over the navy dress. "Oh, you wore that. How brave." "Hello, Mrs. Sterling," Harper said, forcing a polite smile. "Happy anniversary. I brought—" "Just give it to the staff, dear," Catherine interrupted, waving a hand dismissively. "We don't want to clutter the entryway. Liam, come inside. The investors are asking for you. Isaac is in a panic about the Omni representative arriving late." She hooked her arm through Liam's and began dragging him up the stairs. Liam cast a helpless, apologetic look back at Harper, but didn't stop. "I'll catch up with you inside, babe," he called out. Harper stood alone on the driveway. The valet held his hand out for her keys, looking at her with pity. She handed them over and took a deep breath. "Just 3 hours," she told herself. 3 hours, and then I can go home and eat instant noodles in peace. She walked up the stairs, her heels clicking loudly on the marble. The grand foyer was already packed with Connecticut's elite men in tuxedos discussing hedge funds, women in diamonds discussing their summer homes in the Hamptons. Harper navigated the crowd looking for a quiet corner. She felt the eyes on her. It wasn't paranoia. In a sea of satin and velvet, her simple dress stuck out. She heard a whisper as she passed a group of women sipping champagne. "Is that the waitress Liam is dating?" "No, I heard she's a library assistant. Basically a volunteer." Tragic. He could have had the DuPont heiress. Harper kept her head high, spotting the buffet table. Maybe if she just occupied herself with food, no one would bother her. She reached for a small crab cake, but just as her fingers touched the silver tongs, a hand clamped down on her wrist. She gasped and looked up. It was Tiffany Sterling, Liam's younger sister. Tiffany was 22, wore a dress made entirely of gold sequins, and had a look in her eyes that was pure malice. "Those are for guests, Harper." Tiffany hissed a fake smile plastered on her face for the benefit of the room. Harper pulled her wrist back. "I am a guest, Tiffany. Liam invited me." Tiffany laughed, a tinkling, cruel sound. "Liam dragged you along because he's too nice to dump you before the holidays. Look around, Harper. Do you see anyone else here wearing whatever this is? You look like you're here to serve the drinks, not drink them." "Excuse me," Harper said, her voice trembling slightly. "I'm going to find Liam." She tried to step around Tiffany, but the girl sidestepped, blocking her path. Tiffany held a full glass of red wine in her hand. Her eyes narrowed. "You're embarrassing us," Tiffany whispered, leaning in close. "Daddy is about to secure the biggest deal of his life. We don't need his charity case dragging down the aesthetic. Why don't you just leave?" "I'm not leaving," Harper said firmly. "Oops," Tiffany said. It happened in slow motion. Tiffany tilted her wrist. The glass of red wine cascaded forward, splashing directly onto the chest of Harper's navy dress. The dark liquid soaked in instantly, creating a massive wet stain that dripped down to her shoes. The music seemed to stop. The chatter in the room died down as heads turned. "Oh my God!" Tiffany shrieked, playing the victim instantly. "Harper! You clumsy idiot! You bumped right into me! That was a 1990. Chateau Margaux." Harper stood frozen, the cold wine seeping through to her skin. She looked around the room. Dozens of faces were staring at her, some amused, some disgusted. She looked for Liam. He was across the room, standing next to his father. He saw what happened. He saw Tiffany spill the wine. But when his eyes met Harper's, he didn't rush over. He didn't yell at his sister. He turned his back and pretended to examine a painting on the wall. That was the moment something inside Harper fractured. But it didn't break. It hardened. "Get her a towel," someone muttered. "No." Catherine Sterling's voice cut through the silence. She emerged from the crowd, looking at Harper with pure disdain. "Don't waste the linens. Harper, you've caused enough of a scene. Look at the floor. You're ruining the marble." "I didn't do it," Harper said, her voice surprisingly steady. "Tiffany threw it on me." "Don't you dare accuse my daughter," Catherine snapped. "You simply don't know how to carry yourself in polite society. You never have. I think it's best if you go wait in the car until Liam is ready to take you home. You're scaring the investors." Harper looked at Catherine, then at Tiffany, who was smirking behind her glass. She looked at Liam's turned back. "I'm not going to the car," Harper said. Catherine's eyes widened. "Excuse me. I said I'm not going to the car, and I'm not leaving." Harper reached into her purse and pulled out a tissue, dabbing at the stain calmly. "I'm staying for the announcement. I hear the Omni Group representative is quite particular about punctuality. You wouldn't want to cause another scene right before they arrive, would you? Isaac. Sterling. The patriarch finally turned around. He was a large man with a red face and a presence that usually terrified his employees. He walked over his heavy footsteps, echoing. "What is this insolence?" Isaac boomed. "Young lady, you are a guest in my house solely because my son has a savior complex. Do not test my patience tonight. I am 5 minutes away from signing a deal that is worth more than your entire life's earnings multiplied by 1,000. Get out of my sight." Harper stopped dabbing her dress. She looked Isaac dead in the eye. A strange calmness settled over her. "You're right," Isaac Harper said, dropping the formal Mr. Sterling for the first time. "The Omni Group deal is very important. It's the only thing keeping Sterling Industries from bankruptcy, isn't it?" The room went deathly silent. Isaac's face turned a shade of purple. "How dare you?" he whispered. Security. 2 burly men in suits started moving toward Harper. "I wouldn't do that," Harper said, her voice cutting through the tension like a razor. She checked her cheap plastic watch. "Because the Omni Group representative isn't late. She's been here for 20 minutes. Isaac looked around, confused. "What? Who, where?" Harper smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "Hello, Isaac," she said. "I believe you have some papers for me to sign." For 3 seconds, the only sound in the Sterling mansion was the hum of the crystal chandelier overhead. Then Isaac Sterling threw his head back and let out a bark of laughter that sounded more like a cough. "You!" Isaac wiped a tear of mirth from his eye, looking around at his guests as if seeking an audience for the world's best joke. "Did you hear that the waitress thinks she's the Omni Group? Oh, this is rich, Liam. Your little charity project has finally snapped. She's having a psychotic break." Catherine stepped forward, her face twisted in a sneer. "This is beyond embarrassing, Harper. It's pathetic. You're delusional. Security. Remove this crazy woman immediately and call the police. I want a restraining order filed by morning." The 2 security guards, hulking men in black suits who looked like they bent steel for fun, stepped forward. One of them reached out and grabbed Harper's upper arm, his fingers digging into her flesh. "Let's go." Miss the guard grunted. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be." "Take your hand off me," Harper said. She didn't shout. She didn't scream. She spoke with a voice so cold it dropped the temperature in the foyer by 10 degrees. "Or by the time you drag me to the door, your pension fund will be liquidated." The guard hesitated, confused by the authority in her tone. "Drag her out!" Isaac roared, his face turning beet red. "Why is she still standing there?" Because a new voice cut through the crowd. A man in a sharp grey suit pushed his way through the cluster of stunned socialites. It was Arthur Prescott, the Sterling family's longtime corporate attorney. He was pale, sweating profusely, and holding his smartphone with shaking hands. Arthur Isaac frowned. "What is it?" "Help them throw her out." Arthur ignored his boss. He walked straight up to Harper, who was still standing with wine dripping down her dress, held captive by the guard. Arthur looked at her, then at the photo on his phone, then back at her. He swallowed hard. "Mr. Sterling." Arthur whispered, his voice cracking. "Tell the guard to let go." "What?" Isaac spat. "Tell him to let go." Arthur shrieked, panic overtaking his composure. "That is not a waitress, Isaac." That is Harper van der Hoven. She's the majority shareholder of the Omni Group. She's the one buying your debt." The silence that followed was heavy, suffocating. The name van der Hoven rippled through the room. Even the waiters stopped moving. The van der Hovens were old-money industrial titans, steel and shipping magnates. They didn't just have money. They printed the economy. The security guard released Harper's arm as if it were red-hot iron. He took a stumbling step back, his eyes wide. Harper slowly rolled her shoulder, smoothing the fabric where the guard had grabbed her. She didn't look at the guard. She didn't look at Liam. She locked eyes with Isaac. "I prefer to keep a low profile," Harper said, her voice silky and dangerous. "I wanted to see who I was going into business with. I wanted to see the man behind the balance sheet." "And what did I find?" She took a step toward Isaac. The billionaire instinctively took a step back. "I found a man who leverages his company to pay for a lifestyle he can't afford." Harper continued, her voice rising slightly so the back of the room could hear. "I found a wife who judges value by the price tag on a dress. I found a daughter who assaults guests because she's bored. And I found a son." She finally turned to Liam. He was standing there, mouth agape, his face pale. "Harper," Liam stammered. "Babe, I didn't know. Why didn't you tell me I would have—" "You would have what Liam Harper cut him off. Treated me like a human being. Should I have to be a billionaire for you to defend me when your sister pours wine on me? Should I have to own your father's company for you to tell your mother to respect me?" I was trying to keep the peace," Liam mumbled, looking at his feet. "You weren't keeping the peace," Harper said. "You were keeping your inheritance." She turned back to Isaac. "I've been reviewing your financials for the last 6 months, Isaac. While I was serving canapes at your summer party, I was listening to you brag about hiding assets in the Caymans. While I was sitting in your kitchen being ignored, I was observing how you treat your staff. And tonight was the final test. The character clause of our acquisition deal." Isaac tried to regain his composure. He straightened his tuxedo jacket, though his hands were trembling. Now, Harper." "Ms. van der Hoven." Isaac stammered, forcing a terrified smile. "Let's not be hasty. We're all family here, aren't we? A little wine spill, a misunderstanding. Surely we can look past this. The merger is beneficial for both of us." Harper reached into her cheap purse again, but this time she didn't pull out a tissue. She pulled out a black fountain pen. "Arthur," she said, not looking away from Isaac. "Do you have the papers?" "Yes, Ms. van der Hoven." The lawyer squeaked, fumbling with his briefcase. He produced a thick stack of documents. "Good," Harper said. "Bring them here." She walked over to a small antique table in the center of the foyer, a table that held a priceless Ming vase. She pushed the vase aside. It wobbled, and Catherine gasped, but no one dared move to catch it. Harper slammed the papers down on the table. "The deal isn't signed yet," Isaac Harper said. "And as of 5 minutes ago, I was ready to walk away. I was ready to let Sterling Industries collapse. I was ready to let the bank foreclose on this house next week." A collective gasp went through the crowd. The guests began whispering furiously. "Foreclosure. The Sterlings are broke." Isaac's face went grey. The secret was out. But Harper said, uncapping the pen, "I'm a businesswoman, and the assets are valuable, even if the management is rotting." She looked at the wine stain on her dress. Then she looked at Tiffany, who was trying to hide behind a potted plant. Tiffany Harper called out, Tiffany jumped. Yes, come here." Tiffany looked at her mother for help, but Catherine was staring at the floor, defeated. Tiffany walked forward, her gold sequins shaking. "You ruined my dress," Harper said, calm. "Total lie." "It was an accident." Tiffany lied, her voice shrill. "Don't lie to me," Harper snapped. "I saw you do it. The room saw you do it. Now here is the situation. I am going to sign this deal. I am going to save your father's company. I am going to save this house so you don't have to move into a one-bedroom apartment in Queens." Isaac let out a breath of relief. "Oh, thank God. Harper, thank you. You're truly—" "I'm not finished," Harper said, silencing him with a glare. "I'm saving the company. But the leadership changes. Tonight." She tapped the paper. "I'm signing. But I'm not celebrating with these people." Harper gestured to the stunned guests. "I'm celebrating with the people who actually run this house." She turned to the head valet, a man named George, who had been kind to her when she arrived. George, Harper said, "Would you please bring me a glass of that 1990 Chateau Margaux, the one Tiffany wasted?" "Right away, Miss Van der Hoven." George said, a genuine smile breaking on his face, and Isaac Harper said, "Yes." The patriarch looked like a beaten dog. "Get out of my chair." Isaac blinked, confused. I beg your pardon." "There's a leather armchair in the library," Harper said, leaning against the table completely at ease, despite the red stain on her chest. "It's your favorite spot. You sit there and smoke cigars while your wife screams at the maids. I want to sit there. Now." "But—" The guests, Catherine whispered, horrified. "We can't just leave the party." "The party is over for you," Harper said. "You can stay, but not as hosts. As of this moment, Sterling Industries is a subsidiary of Vanguard Holdings. That means I own this house. I own the catering. I pay the staff." She turned to the crowd of wealthy onlookers. They were silent, captivated by the spectacle. This was better than any opera or Broadway show. "Ladies and gentlemen," Harper addressed the room, "please continue to eat and drink. The bar is open. But the Sterlings have some business to attend to. Family business." She turned back to Liam, who had finally found his voice. He stepped forward, putting on his most charming, desperate smile. He reached for her hand. "Harper, please," he said, his voice dropping to a seductive whisper. "I know you're angry. You have every right to be. But think about us. Think about the last 3 years. I loved you when you were nobody. Doesn't that count for something?" Harper looked at his hand, then at his face. For a second, her expression softened. Liam saw the opening and pressed on. "We can run this together," he said eagerly. "You and me. The power couple. Think of it. We can fire the board. We can rule the city. I know my family is difficult, but I can handle them. Just put down the pen. Let's go upstairs and talk about this." Harper laughed. It was a dry, hollow sound. "You loved me when I was nobody," she repeated. "Liam, do you remember my birthday last year?" Liam blinked. We went to dinner." "No," Harper said. "You forgot. You were in the Hamptons with your friends. I sat in my apartment alone. When I called you, you told me I was being needy. You sent me a text the next day with a gift card. Liam went red. And when my car broke down last month," Harper continued, "and I asked for a ride to my interview. You told me to take the bus because you didn't want to scratch your Porsche in my neighborhood. She stepped closer to him. You didn't love me, Liam. You loved having someone you could feel superior to. You loved having a simple girl who looked up to you. But now that I'm looking down at you, you don't like it very much, do you? She pulled her hand away. Arthur Harper said to the lawyer, Add a clause to the contract. The employment retention agreement. Arthur clicked his pen, ready to write. Yes, ma'am. What are the terms Isaac Sterling remains as a figurehead CEO for transition purposes for 3 months, Harper dictated. Catherine Sterling is removed from the board of directors immediately. And Liam Sterling. She paused. Liam held his breath. Liam is to be reassigned, Harper said. He wants to be part of the company. Fine. We have an opening in the sanitation logistics division. Sanitation. Liam choked. You mean garbage trucks? Logistics. Liam. Harper smiled. Managing the routes, early mornings, heavy lifting. It builds character. I think you'll love it. The starting salary is $45,000 a year. No bonuses. I won't do it. Liam shouted. I'm a VP of marketing. Not anymore, Harper said coldly. You're broke, Liam. Your trust fund was tied to the company's stock, which was worthless until I signed this. If you don't take the job, I cut you off completely. No allowance, no apartment, no Porsche. You'll be on the street in a week. Liam looked at his father. Isaac refused to make eye contact. He knew she was right. They were completely cornered. I'll take it, Liam whispered, tears forming in his eyes. Good, Harper said. She turned to Tiffany, who was trying to inch away. And you, Harper said. I don't work for the company, Tiffany snapped. You can't touch me. True, Harper nodded. But I do own the credit card you used to buy that gold dress, and the car you drove here, and the tuition for that fashion school you're failing out of. Tiffany froze. The wine on my dress is very sticky, Harper said thoughtfully, and these floors are marble. They stain so easily. She pointed to the puddle of red wine on the floor where Tiffany had spilled it. Clean it up, Harper said. What? Tiffany shrieked. There are paper towels in the kitchen, Harper said. Clean up the mess you made. On your hands and knees. Now, or I cancel the credit cards before the sun comes up. The room was deathly silent. Tiffany looked at her mother. Catherine was weeping silently into a handkerchief, unable to save her. Slowly, painfully, Tiffany Sterling, the girl who had never lifted a finger in her life, knelt down in her gold sequin dress. She didn't move towards the kitchen. She used the hem of her own expensive gown to start wiping the wine off the floor, sobbing as the red liquid ruined her gold sequins. Harper watched for a moment, then turned back to the table. She signed the documents with a flourish. Harper van der Hoven. She handed the papers to Arthur. File these immediately, she said. George the valet appeared with a glass of wine. Harper took it. She held it up to the light. To family, she said, raising the glass to the horrified Sterlings. She took a sip, then turned to the crowd. Now who wants to hear about the new direction of Sterling Industries? The guests, sensing the new alpha in the room, immediately swarmed her, turning their backs on Isaac, Catherine, and Liam. The Sterlings were left standing alone, on the edge of their own party ghosts in their own home. But Harper knew this wasn't over. Isaac Sterling was a snake, and snakes didn't die just because you stepped on them. They waited to bite. As Harper mingled accepting congratulations, she felt a vibration in her pocket. It was her private phone. A text message. She checked it. It was from an unknown number. You think you've won, but you forgot about the Cayman accounts. Watch your back, CEO. Ah. Harper looked across the room. Isaac was gone. 2 weeks had passed since the gala, and the atmosphere at Sterling Industries had shifted from a funeral wake to a military boot camp. Harper van der Hoeven didn't just sit in the CEO's chair. She commanded it. She arrived at the glass-walled headquarters in downtown Manhattan at 6:00 a.m. sharp every morning, wearing tailored suits that cost more than Liam's car. Her hair pulled back in a severe, no-nonsense bun. Down in the loading dock, however, the atmosphere was very different. "Move it." Sterling, the dock foreman, shouted, banging a clipboard against a metal railing. "That dumpster isn't going to empty itself." Liam Sterling, once the vice president of marketing, who spent his days taking 3-hour lunches and flirting with interns, grunted as he heaved a heavy bag of shredded paper into the compactor. He was wearing a neon yellow safety vest that smelled of old coffee and hydraulic fluid. His manicured fingernails were broken and black with grime. I'm going, Liam muttered, wiping sweat from his forehead with a dirty sleeve. He looked up at the towering skyscraper above him. Somewhere on the 40th floor, Harper was sitting in the office that used to be his father's drinking espresso and deciding the fate of the world. The unfairness of it burned in his gut like acid. "Hey, Sterling," a co-worker sneered, tossing a half-eaten sandwich near Liam's boots. "Pick that up. Marketing team needs a clean floor to walk on." Liam gritted his teeth. He wanted to quit. He wanted to storm out. But his bank account was frozen. His credit cards were declined. Harper hadn't been bluffing. If he didn't punch his time card, he didn't eat. Upstairs, Harper was staring at a computer screen. Her brow furrowed. "Arthur," she said, not looking away. "Come look at this." Arthur Prescott, who had retained his job as legal counsel by swiftly swearing loyalty to Harper, hurried over. "What is it, Ms. van der Hoeven? I'm trying to access the legacy accounts," Harper said. "The offshore subsidiaries Isaac set up in the Caymans. We need to liquidate them to cover the pension shortfall. But every time I try to access the ledger, the system freezes." Arthur adjusted his glasses, leaning in. "That's odd." "You have administrator privileges. Isaac handed over the master keys last week." "Did he?" Harper mused. "Or did he hand over the keys to the front door while keeping the back door locked?" Suddenly, the screen flashed red. A skull and crossbones icon appeared in the center of the monitor, pixelated and mocking. A text box popped up underneath it. "Access denied. Unauthorized user. Security protocol. Icarus initiated." Icarus. Arthur paled. "Oh no. What is it?" Harper demanded, her fingers flying across the keyboard, trying to override the lock. "It's a poison pill," Arthur whispered, terror in his eyes. Isaac talked about this years ago when he was drunk. He said if anyone ever tried to take the company from him, he'd burn it to the ground. "It's a logic bomb, Harper. It deletes the data." "It's not just deleting data," Harper said, watching the numbers on the screen plummet. "It's transferring funds. Look." Millions of dollars were draining from the company operating accounts. $10 million, $20 million, $50 million, the numbers were spinning down like a slot machine in reverse. He's emptying the accounts. Harper realized a cold dread washing over her. "He's stealing everything before we can secure it." "We have to stop it," Arthur yelled. Pull the servers. Cut the power. It's too late, Harper said, watching the balance hit 0. The screen went black. Then a single line of text appeared in green. I told you to watch your back. R. Harper slammed her fist onto the mahogany desk. The phone on her desk rang. It was the lobby security. Ms. van der Hoven. The guard's voice was shaky. You need to come down here. Now. I'm a little busy. Mike Harper snapped. Ma'am, it's the FBI. They're here. And they have news vans with them. Harper's blood ran cold. She walked to the floor-to-ceiling window and looked down. The plaza in front of the building was swarming with federal agents in windbreakers and a horde of reporters. Arthur Harper said calmly, turning to the trembling lawyer, Call my personal legal team. The sharks are circling. She smoothed her blazer, checked her reflection in the dark monitor, and headed for the elevator. She wasn't going to hide. When the elevator doors opened in the lobby, the noise was deafening. Camera flashes exploded like strobes. Miss van der Hoven. Did you authorize the transfer? Harper. Is it true you're a corporate spy? Where is the pension money? Harper. A tall man with a buzz cut and an FBI badge stepped forward, blocking her path. Harper van der Hoven. Yes, she said, holding her head high. I'm Special Agent Miller. You're under arrest for wire fraud, embezzlement, and corporate espionage. Harper scoffed. You're joking. I've owned this company for 2 weeks. Isaac Sterling is the one who drained the accounts. That's not what the digital footprint says, Agent Miller said, pulling out a pair of handcuffs. We tracked the transfer. It went from the company accounts directly to a shell corporation, registered in your name in Switzerland. The transfer was authorized using your biometrics. Harper froze. My biometrics? Then she remembered. The day of the gala. The wine spill. She had gone to the bathroom to clean up. She had left her purse on the table for 5 minutes, her phone, her fingerprints on the glass. Isaac hadn't just been hiding money, he had been building a frame. This is a setup, Harper said, as the cold metal cuffs clicked around her wrists. Tell it to the judge, Miller said. He spun her around. As she was led out of the building, the crowd parted. And there, standing right by the police cruiser, was Isaac Sterling. He was wearing a fresh tuxedo, looking like he was ready for another gala. He held a lit cigar in one hand. Next to him stood Liam. Liam had taken off his sanitation vest. He was clean. He was smiling. I told you, Harper Isaac called out, his voice booming over the reporters. You were a great waitress. But you should have stayed in the kitchen. You don't have the stomach for the big game. Liam looked at her, his eyes cold and empty. Sorry, babe. Family first. Harper was shoved into the back of the cruiser. As the car pulled away, she saw Isaac put his arm around Liam's shoulder. They were laughing. She had the money. She had the power. But she had underestimated the treachery of a desperate man. She wasn't just broke again. She was about to be infamous. The interrogation room was cold, smelling of stale coffee and fear. Harper sat on a metal chair, her hands still cuffed to the table. They had taken her blazer, her shoes, and her dignity. Agent Miller sat across from her, tossing a thick file onto the table. It's a slam dunk, Harper Miller said, leaning back. We found the emails. You communicating with a hacking group called the Syndicate. You paid them to install the back door into Sterling Industries 6 months ago. That's why you took the job as a waitress, like to get close to the family. to steal their passwords. I didn't write those emails. Harper said, her voice raspy. Isaac Sterling forged them. He's been planning this. Isaac Sterling. Miller laughed. The man is a pillar of the community. He called us the moment the money moved. He's the victim here. He's heartbroken. He told us he treated you like a daughter. He treated me like trash, Harper snapped. Look. Miller sighed. The money is in an account with your name on it. The IP address traces back to your apartment. We have witness testimony from Liam Sterling stating that you bragged about taking down the family for weeks. Harper closed her eyes. Liam. Of course. He was the weak link, and Isaac had welded him back into the chain. I want my lawyer, Harper said. Your lawyer is here, Miller said, standing up. But honestly, unless you have a magic wand, you're looking at 20 years. The door buzzed open. A woman walked in. She was sharp older with silver hair and a suit that cost more than the entire police precinct. It wasn't Arthur. It was Eleanor Vance, the most feared defense attorney in New York City. Harper had hired her on retainer years ago, just in case her secret identity ever caused complications. Out, Eleanor said, to Agent Miller. She didn't ask. She commanded. Miller hesitated, then grabbed his file and left. Nice to see you, Eleanor, Harper said, managing a weak smile, though the accommodations leave something to be desired. Cut the chit-chat, Harper, Eleanor said, sitting down and opening her briefcase. This is bad. Isaac played a masterstroke. He used the chaotic transition period to execute a pre-planned heuristic algorithm. He mimicked your digital signature. The money is in a dark pool account. We can't trace it, so I'm going to prison. Not if I can help it. But public opinion is dead. The news is running the story Billionaire Heiress Scams Family Business. You're the villain, Harper. I need to get out of here, Harper said. I can't fight him from a cage. I've arranged bail, Eleanor said. It's set at $50 million. The judge wanted to make an example of you. Pay it, Harper said instantly. I did. Eleanor nodded. You'll be released in an hour. But Harper, you can't go back to Sterling Industries. The board has suspended you. Isaac has filed an emergency injunction to be reinstated as interim CEO to stabilize the crisis. He's going to destroy the evidence, Harper realized. If he gets back in that building, he'll wipe the servers that prove he set me up. Exactly. And he's holding a press conference at 5:00 p.m. today in the company lobby to announce his return. Harper looked at the clock on the wall. It was 2:00 p.m. I need to be at that press conference, Harper said. Harper. That's suicide, Eleanor warned. If you violate the restraining order he's likely filing right now. I need leverage, Eleanor. Isaac thinks he's won because he controlled the digital narrative. But he forgot about the analog world. What do you mean? Before I bought the company. Harper said, her eyes narrowing. When I was a nobody waitress invisible to them, I wasn't just serving drinks. I was taking out the trash. And Isaac is old school. He doesn't trust the cloud. He keeps hard copies of his real ledgers. He thinks he destroyed them all. Did he? Eleanor asked. He told Liam to burn them. Harper said, a slow smile spreading across her face. Last month, I remember Liam complaining about it. He said he had to burn boxes of boring dad stuff in the incinerator. So they're ash, Eleanor said, disappointed. Liam is lazy, Harper said. He never does what he's told if it requires effort. If I know Liam, he didn't burn them. He just threw them in the back of the storage unit to deal with later. The storage unit. The family keeps a private storage unit for overflow antiques. Liam has a key. And guess who stole Liam's spare key 3 months ago when he locked himself out of his apartment? Harper reached into her bra and pulled out a small, tarnished brass key. They had taken her purse, but they hadn't searched her person thoroughly enough. You have 3 hours, Eleanor said, checking her watch. If you can find those physical ledgers, we can prove the digital fraud. I'm going to need a ride, Harper said. And a change of clothes. I can't storm a castle in a prison jumpsuit. 4:45 p.m. The Sterling storage facility. The unit was dusty and smelled of mothballs. Harper, now dressed in black jeans and a leather jacket, frantically tore open cardboard boxes. Christmas decorations, old tax returns. 1998. Liam's participation trophies. Come on, Liam, you lazy idiot, Harper muttered, tossing a box of porcelain dolls aside. Where are they? She checked her phone. 4:50 p.m. Isaac was about to take the stage. She saw a stack of boxes in the corner labeled "To Burn, Urgent." The tape on them hadn't even been broken. Gotcha, Harper whispered. She ripped the top box open. Inside were stacks of red binders. Shadow accounts. Cayman, Panama. She flipped one open. It was all there. The handwritten notes, the transfer protocols, and crucially a note in Isaac's handwriting dated 2 weeks ago, Project Icarus setup HVDH. For fall, transfer initiate upon biometric capture. He had written down his own crime. Found it, Harper shouted to the empty room. She grabbed the binder and ran for the door. She burst out into the alleyway where Eleanor was waiting in a black SUV. Drive, Harper yelled, diving into the back seat. Go, go, go! Eleanor floored it. The tires screeched as they peeled onto the highway. The press conference started 2 minutes ago, Eleanor said, glancing at the rearview mirror. Isaac is live on every network. Harper pulled out her phone and pulled up the live stream. On the small screen, Isaac Sterling stood at a podium, looking somber and dignified. Liam stood behind him, looking like a dutiful son. It is with a heavy heart, Isaac was saying to the cameras, that I resume control of my family's legacy. We were deceived by a predator, a woman who posed as a friend, but was truly a wolf in sheep's clothing. Harper van der Hoeven stole our money, but she will not steal our spirit. The crowd applauded. Faster, Eleanor Harper said, clutching the red binder to her chest. I'm doing 80, Eleanor shot back. Do 90. They screeched around the corner of the Sterling Industries building. The police barricades were up. I can't get through, Eleanor said. Drop me here, Harper said. She kicked the door open before the car even fully stopped. Harper. Wait. Harper didn't wait. She sprinted toward the police line. A uniformed officer stepped in front of her. Ma'am, you can't get out of my way. Harper roared, holding the red binder up like a weapon. I have evidence. She ducked under the barricade tape. 2 officers chased her. She ran toward the glass doors. They were locked. Inside, Isaac was wrapping up his speech. And so Isaac said, smiling benevolently, We will rebuild, and justice will be served. Bam! They laughed at her shoes. They whispered about her job. Once they even told her to eat in the kitchen where the staff usually sits. For 3 years, Harper swallowed every slight the Sterling family threw at her, telling herself it was temporary, that love required endurance. She believed that if she stayed quiet long enough, they would eventually see her worth. Tonight proved how wrong she was. The crunch of gravel beneath Liam's sedan echoed through her chest as they drove up the long, pristine driveway of the Sterling estate. Harper's fingers curled tightly around the seatbelt, her pulse racing. The mansion loomed ahead, all glass and stone, glowing with wealth that had never once made room for her. "Relax," Liam said lightly, adjusting his tie. "It's just my parents' anniversary gala. Don't take anything personally, okay? Tonight is important for my dad." Harper glanced down at her navy dress, simple, elegant, and bought on sale after weeks of hesitation. She already knew how it would be judged, not by how it fit her, but by how much it cost. "I always let it go," she said softly, "but it's getting harder." Liam exhaled, irritation flickering across his face. "Just try to blend in. Be invisible." Valets rushed forward as the car stopped. Harper stepped out into the cool night air, clutching the carefully wrapped gift she'd saved months to afford. Before she could take a full breath, a sharp, polished voice rang out. "Liam, finally." Catherine Sterling descended the steps in a silver gown, embracing her son without a glance at Harper. Only after the greeting was complete did her eyes drift over Harper, cool and dismissive. "Oh," Catherine said, lips tightening. "You wore that." Something in Harper finally shifted. Tonight, she realized, would be the last time she ever tried to belong. Catherine Sterling walked in first. She looked 10 years older than she had at the gala. Her hair was frizzy, her makeup hastily applied. She was wearing a trench coat over a dress that looked slept in. Behind her trailed Tiffany, looking sullen and terrified, and Liam. Liam looked the worst. He had dark circles under his eyes. He had testified against his father to save his own skin. But the public backlash had been brutal. He was the Judas of the family, hated by his father's supporters, and distrusted by everyone else. They stood awkwardly at the end of the table. Harper didn't offer them a seat. "Harper." Catherine began, her voice trembling. "Thank you for seeing us. We didn't know who else to turn to. The bank froze our personal accounts this morning. They put a padlock on the Greenwich estate. Standard procedure during a federal investigation into money laundering." Harper said, not looking up from her papers. "Asset forfeiture." "But where are we supposed to live?" Tiffany whined. "They gave us 24 hours to vacate, Harper. You can't let them kick us out of our home. It's been in the family for 4 generations. Harper looked up. "It's not your home, Tiffany. It was bought with stolen money, and technically, since I bought the debt, it's my home. The bank is just holding it for me." "Then let us stay," Liam pleaded, stepping forward. He tried to use that old charm, the puppy dog eyes that used to work on Harper. "Babe. Harper. Look, I helped you. I told the truth about the ledgers. I saved the day, didn't I? Doesn't that earn me a second chance? We can start over. Just you and me in the mansion. Mum and Tiffany can stay in the guest house." Harper stared at him, incredulous. "You think you saved the day, Liam. You only spoke up because you realized the ship was sinking and you didn't want to drown. You knew about the poison pill. You knew about the frame job. You were going to let me go to prison right up until the moment I slapped that binder on the podium." Liam stammered. I was scared of him. He's my dad. And I was your girlfriend, Harper said softly. I was the woman you claimed to love, and you watched me get handcuffed. She stood up and walked over to the window, looking out at the city. I have a proposal for you, Harper said. The Sterlings perked up. Hope washed over Catherine's face. Anything, Harper. Anything. I'm setting up a trust, Harper said. A hardship fund. It will provide a small monthly stipend, enough for a 2-bedroom apartment in the Bronx, subway passes and groceries. The Bronx. Catherine gasped, clutching her pearls. But we're Sterlings. Not anymore, Harper said. The name is poison. But here's the catch. To access the fund, you have to work. Work. Tiffany wrinkled her nose. I've acquired a few new businesses in my portfolio, Harper said. Tiffany, I own a cleaning service that specializes in industrial messes. You start Monday. Minimum wage. Tiffany looked like she was going to be sick. Catherine Harper continued. I own a call center in New Jersey. Customer service complaints. You're good at complaining. Let's see how you handle being screamed at for 8 hours a day. Catherine's knees buckled. She grabbed a chair to steady herself, and Liam Harper turned to him. Marketing? Liam asked hopefully. Consultant? No. Harper smiled. I remember you saying you didn't want to scratch your Porsche in my neighborhood. Well, I sold the Porsche, but I kept the memory. I bought that little diner on 4th Street, the one where we met, the one where you used to snap your fingers at me to get a refill. Liam went pale. No. Yes, Harper said. They need a dishwasher. And a busboy. Shift starts at 6:00 a.m. If you're late, the trust fund is cut off for the whole family. Liam looked at his mother. Catherine was weeping. Tiffany was staring at her hands. They had no money, no friends, no options. We accept. Liam whispered, his head hanging low. Good, Harper said, returning to her seat. Now get out of my office. I have a company to rebuild. As they shuffled out, broken and defeated, Arthur looked at Harper with a mixture of awe and fear. Was that necessary? He asked quietly. Harper looked at the empty chairs. They spent 3 years making me feel small, Arthur. I didn't destroy them. I just gave them the life they thought I deserved. The courtroom was packed. It was the sentencing hearing for Isaac Sterling. The former billionaire sat in an orange jumpsuit, looking gaunt and defeated. His high-priced lawyers had abandoned him when the money ran out, leaving him with a public defender who looked like he hadn't slept in a week. Isaac Sterling, the judge, boomed, "On the counts of wire fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy, this court finds you guilty. You are sentenced to 25 years in federal prison without the possibility of parole." The gavel banged. It sounded like a gunshot. Isaac didn't scream. He didn't fight. He just looked back into the gallery. He was looking for his family. But the bench reserved for the family was empty. Catherine couldn't get time off from the call center. Tiffany was working a double shift cleaning an office building. And Liam, Isaac was led away in chains, a king, with no kingdom, no heirs, and no legacy. Harper sat in the back row wearing a simple trench coat and sunglasses. She watched him go. She didn't feel joy. She didn't feel anger. She just felt done. The weight was finally gone. She stood up and walked out of the courthouse into the bright sunlight. A black town car was waiting for her. "Where to?" Ms. van der Hoven, the driver, asked. "The airport." "The private jet is ready for Paris." "Not yet," Harper said. Take me to 4th Street. Benny's Diner. The driver looked confused but nodded. Yes, ma'am. The diner was a greasy spoon, the kind of place that smelled of bacon grease and old coffee. It was where Harper had worked when she met Liam. It was where the nightmare had started. She pushed the door open. The bell chimed. The place was busy with the lunch rush. Sit anywhere, a waitress yelled from behind the counter. Harper slid into a booth near the back. The red vinyl seat was cracked. The table was sticky. A few minutes later, a man approached the table with a water pitcher. He was wearing a stained white apron over a t-shirt. He looked exhausted. His hair was messy and he had a burn mark on his arm from a fryer. Water for you, the man mumbled, not looking up. Sparkling if you have it, Harper said. The man froze. The pitcher shook in his hand. Slowly, Liam Sterling looked up. His eyes widened. He looked at Harper, impeccable, glowing, powerful. Then he looked down at his own greasy apron. The shame radiating off him was palpable. Harper, he whispered. Hello, Liam, she said. I heard the lunch rush is brutal today. What are you doing here? He hissed, glancing around to see if anyone was watching. Did you come to gloat? Isn't it enough that I'm scrubbing plates with gum on them? Isn't it enough that I live in a shoebox? I didn't come to gloat, Harper said gently. She reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope. She slid it across the table. Liam looked at it suspiciously. What is this? An eviction notice. Open it. Liam wiped his hands on his apron and tore the envelope open. Inside was a set of keys. Not car keys. House keys. The guest house, Harper said. At the Greenwich estate. Liam stared at her, his mouth open. What I'm turning the main mansion into a foundation, Harper explained. A shelter for women trying to get back on their feet. Women who have been abused, discarded, or underestimated. But the guest house, it's empty. You're letting us move back in? Liam asked, tears welling up in his eyes. I'm letting you live there, Harper corrected. Rent-free. But you keep the job, Liam. You keep washing dishes. Tiffany keeps cleaning. Catherine keeps answering phones. You earn your keep. But you don't have to freeze in the Bronx anymore. Liam gripped the keys. He started to sob right there in the middle of the diner. Why? After everything we did to you. Harper stood up. She looked down at him not with love, but with pity. Because, Liam, she said, the difference between you and me isn't money. It's heart. You treated me like trash because you thought you were better than me. I'm treating you with kindness because I know I'm better than you. She put a $20 bill on the table. Keep the change, she said. Harper turned and walked out of the diner, the bell chiming behind her. She didn't look back. She got into her car, checked her phone, and saw the stock price of her company climbing. She had lost a boyfriend, but she had found herself. And as the car drove away toward her new life, she knew one thing for sure: the view from the top was much better when you climbed there yourself. Wow, talk about the ultimate karma. Harper didn't just win, she completely rewrote the rules of the game. It just goes to show that you should never judge someone by their shoes or their job title, because you never know who is holding the real power. The Sterlings learned the hard way that arrogance is a loan you eventually have to pay back with interest. If you enjoyed this story of betrayal, revenge, and justice, please smash that like button, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a story. Thanks for watching.